Imagine the quintessential conservative patriarch, an emblem of American right-wing politics, the 40th President of the United States, Ronald Reagan. Now picture his offsprings, not as bearers of the conservative torch, but as those casting it aside for a light of a different color. Indeed, this isn't a fictional twist, but the living narrative of one of America's most enigmatic political families, the Reagans. In today's episode of Old Money Luxury, we'll enter the Reagan home, a crucible where expected conservative legacies meet surprising liberal realities. Ron, the family's youngest, veers left, embracing progressive ideals with an energy echoing his father's fervor for conservatism. His sister, Patty Davis, is no different, advocating for views her father's policies once opposed. Thus, within the Reagan family's history, herein lies not a saga of alignment, but a riveting account of ideological divergence within America's most unpredictable dynasty. In the middle of the 19th century, the Reagan ancestors would embark on a transformative journey from the emerald shores of Ireland to the land of opportunity, America. This exodus was set against a tumultuous period for the Irish, a time marred by the infamous Great Famine that raged from 1845 to 1852. The blight that ravaged potato crops led to mass starvation and disease, pushing over 1 million to flee their homeland. The United States beckoned as a beacon of hope, despite the prevalent anti-immigrant sentiment simmering within at the time. The Irish, often arriving impoverished and weary, faced discrimination and were relegated to the lowest rungs of the socio-economic ladder. Yet their resilience in the face of such adversity and their commitment to persevere laid the groundwork for the communities they established. It was indeed during such a time of social flux and transformation that Ronald Reagan's familial tale unfolded. Born in the heartland of Tampico, Illinois, his father, the charismatic Jack Reagan, was a salesman with a penchant for captivating storytelling. It was from Jack that the young Ronald inherited not just the art of storytelling, but also a vibrant sense of humor, qualities that would shape his future public persona. Over time, the Reagan family crisscrossed the Illinois landscape, dwelling in towns like Monmouth and Galesburg before anchoring their roots in Dixon, where Ronald's formative years took shape. And then, the 6th of February 1911, marked the birth of Ronald Wilson Reagan. His parents, the aforementioned John Edward Jack Reagan and Nell Wilson Reagan, instilled in him a deep work ethic, a sense of duty, and an unwavering love for their homeland. And their abiding Christian faith left an additional imprint on Ronald's character, a guiding light that would shine through his life. Having graduated from Eureka College in 1932, Reagan embarked on a career that would see him master the art of communication. And when the world of radio broadcasting beckoned, and he answered, working his way up from sports announcer to a beloved radio personality. These formative years in broadcasting cultivated his remarkable ability to connect with audiences, a skill that would serve him well in the realm of politics. Then, in 1937, a new chapter unfolded as Reagan ventured into the enchanting world of Hollywood. Warner Brothers recognized his star potential, propelling him to leading roles in cinematic treasures such as Newt Rockney, All-American, and King's Row. Love, too, played a role in his life's narrative. His first marriage, a union with actress Jane Wyman in 1940, brought forth 2 children, Maureen and Michael. Alas, the cinematic love story met its final act in divorce in 1948. However, the grand love story of Ronald Reagan's life was yet to come. In 1952, he found his muse and partner in Nancy Davis, a luminous figure who would become an integral part of his life and career. Their union, which spanned over 5 decades until Reagan's passing in 2004, would stand as one of American politics' most iconic duos. Yet before the world knew him as governor, or indeed as president, Ronald Reagan was an actor, a voice that carried across radio waves, and a man of persuasive charm on the television screens. As California's golden sun dipped below the horizon, a new dawn was approaching, one that would see the Reagan family's destiny intertwine with the governance of a state, and later, a nation. Now, at the time he decided to run for governor of California, Ronald Reagan was already a familiar face to Americans, but his role was vastly different. He graced the silver screen as an actor, and later took on the mantle of leadership within the Screen Actors Guild. But his transition from actor to political contender wasn't an abrupt switch. It was rather a gradual shift that reflected his deepening interest in conservative politics, especially as a counterpoint to the prevailing liberal Hollywood ethos of the time. Specifically, Reagan's foray into politics was marked by a speech supporting Barry Goldwater in 1964, which resonated with many conservative Californians. His communication skills, honed in Hollywood, now served him well in the political arena, enabling him to connect with voters on a personal level. This natural charisma and his vision for a more conservative California laid the groundwork for his successful bid for the governor's office in 1966. During his tenure, he focused on reducing government intervention in social issues, loosening the reins on businesses, and enacting sweeping tax cuts. His vision was to rekindle the free market spirit, liberating it from excessive government regulation and fostering an environment ripe for private initiative and enterprise. And at the time of his inauguration, the nation grappled with double-digit inflation and soaring interest rates, challenges that Reagan vowed to confront head-on. In 1976, Reagan narrowly lost his bid for the Republican presidential nomination, but he emerged as a formidable force in national politics. His unyielding dedication to conservative principles garnered him a fervent following, solidifying his stature as a leading figure within the Republican Party. Next, in 1980, Reagan ran for president, claiming to carry the banner of restoring American pride and strength, embodying the quintessential American spirit of self-reliance and resilience. The pillars of his agenda included a resolute commitment to reducing government intervention in the economy and bolstering military expenditure, both of which would become cornerstones of his presidency. As he stepped into the highest office in the land, Reagan was met with a wave of optimism and hope. Yet he also faced a formidable array of challenges. A recession loomed large, and unemployment rates soared, casting a shadow over his initial days in power. Ronald Reagan's presidency was marked by an economic strategy that emphasized tax reductions, deregulation, and a surge in defense spending. This approach, known as Reaganomics, set off an economic upswing that saw the stock market soar to new levels. Yet this success came with a steep rise in the nation's debt, an issue that still sparks debate over fiscal policy. And the tax reductions aimed to jumpstart the economy, but they didn't cover their own cost as hoped. Instead, federal income dropped around 9% initially. The expected decrease in spending didn't occur, further expanding the deficit. Additionally, a significant rise in military expenditure under Reagan, justified as a counter to the Soviet threat, was drawing criticism for its part in increasing the national debt. And Reagan's social policy also drew ire, as it suggested a retreat of federal involvement in addressing social issues, which some argue put the more disadvantaged American populations in jeopardy. In his second term, Reagan shifted towards diplomacy and arms control, notably collaborating with Mikhail Gorbachev. This resulted in the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, a key factor in softening the Cold War tensions and eventually leading to the Soviet Union's collapse. Yet, Reagan's tenure in office was also a time marred by controversy and scandal, fueling debate among scholars and the public. One such scandal was the Iran-Contra affair, where officials secretly sold arms to embargoed Iran, using the profits to support Nicaraguan Contras in direct defiance of the Boland Amendment. This event called into question the administration's adherence to legal and constitutional principles. Therefore, the Reagan era not only left an unforgettable mark on American politics, but also fundamentally transformed the demographic composition of the Republican Party. Its core tenets, firmly etched in the national consciousness, endure to this day: lower taxes, reduced government constraints on both individuals and businesses, and an unwavering commitment to a robust military. Yet, as the Reagan administration faced challenges, both domestic and international, it would be the unspoken yet undeniable influence of one individual that would shape the legacy of this political family. Behind the scenes, yet profoundly impactful, Nancy was preparing to imprint her vision upon the very fabric of the Reagan doctrine. In the hallowed pages of American history, the indomitable Nancy Reagan emerges as a First Lady of formidable influence. You see, Nancy Reagan was not a passive observer of her husband's presidency. She was a catalyst for change. Her Just Say No anti-drug campaign echoed through the nation, a resounding call to arms in the battle against substance abuse. Yet it was not just in the realm of policy that Nancy's influence reigned supreme. Her style was a canvas upon which she painted her unique identity, and the signature Reagan red evening gowns she donned became symbolic of her grace and panache. Indeed, the Reagan marriage, a captivating narrative in its own right, stood as an emblem of devotion. Theirs was a love story that transcended the political arena, and Nancy was more than a first lady. She was a guardian of her husband's well-being and a staunch advocate of his political vision. While critiques abounded about her spending and her influence, the undeniable truth remained. Their love was a force to be reckoned with. However, it was the legacy of the Reagan children that would truly show the ideological diversity of this legendary political dynasty. For example, the Reagans' daughter Patty Davis emerges as a figure of profound transformation. Patty quickly became known for her ideological differences from her famous political parents, becoming a vocal critic of nuclear weapons and signaling her deep commitment to global safety. In her memoir, The Way I See It, Patty offers insights into her personal challenges and beliefs as a Reagan family member. Patty also experienced a long period of distance from her parents, but ultimately they were able to reconnect and find common ground despite their differing political views. In a parallel trajectory, Ronald Reagan's son, Ron Reagan, carved his path in the media landscape. Hosting a talk show and assuming the mantle of a political commentator, he cast himself as a liberal voice, starkly contrasting his father's conservative legacy. Maureen Reagan, a luminous presence within the Reagan family, also left a poignant mark on the tapestry of their collective history. A fervent advocate for women's rights and a staunch supporter of the National Alzheimer's Association, her advocacy work resonated with compassion and purpose. Her untimely passing in 2001 was a profound loss, not just for the Reagan family, but also for the causes she held dear. Michael Reagan, another scion of the Reagan clan, forged a distinctive path as a public speaker and advocate for adoption services. As an adopted child himself, he channeled his experiences into a powerful mission to raise awareness about the importance of adoption. Additionally, his commitment to promoting his father's legacy and conservative principles remained unwavering. Therefore, the Reagan family stands out in American political lore for their internal diversity of thought and belief, contrasting sharply with other prominent political families such as the generally liberal Kennedys and Roosevelts, or the predominantly conservative Trumps and Bushes. This unique characteristic of the Reagans highlights a breadth of perspective within a single family, showcasing the complexity and individuality of political views across generations. Now, on the 5th of June 2004, the nation mourned the passing of Ronald Reagan, the 40th President of the United States. The news of his death spread across the country and beyond, eliciting an outpouring of grief and tributes. And Reagan's state funeral was a dignified and solemn spectacle, with thousands of mourners lining the streets of Washington, D.C. to pay their respects. The procession made its way to the National Cathedral during a solemn journey that featured a horse-drawn caisson carrying Reagan's casket. There, amidst the soaring spires and hallowed arches, a memorial service was held. Dignitaries from around the world gathered to honor the legacy of the statesman, including former Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev himself, a testament to Reagan's transcendent influence. After their patriarch's passing, the Reagan family's commitment to public service extended to charitable causes with the establishment of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation. This institution stands as a bastion dedicated to preserving and championing the legacy of Ronald Reagan. It orchestrates an array of programs and events, including speaking engagements and public appearances by Reagan family members. Furthermore, the foundation ardently supports charitable endeavors, with a poignant focus on combating Alzheimer's disease, a cause dear to the family's heart. Thus, his legacy of the presidency of Ronald Wilson Reagan is a tale of two cities, if you will. On the one hand, Ronald Reagan is venerated by many as a paragon of conservative values, whose tenure in the White House is synonymous with an era of economic rejuvenation and assertive foreign policy. On the other, he is critiqued for policies that critics assert exacerbated income inequality and sowed seeds of discord in international relations. Reagan's foreign policy maneuvers, particularly the aggressive posture against the Soviet Union, are either celebrated as a decisive contribution to the end of the Cold War or decried for escalating nuclear tensions and fostering conflicts in Latin America. And the legacy of the Reagan family is equally nuanced. Through the foundation, they have become prominent advocates in the fight against Alzheimer's disease, a condition that President Reagan bravely confronted in his later years. This advocacy has been widely praised, yet some of the Reagan children's forays into public life and well-known contention with their father's views have also added layers to the family's complex public image. And in media and literature, Reagan is both lionized and vilified, a symbol of his enduring impact, both good and bad, on the nation. This complex portrait is essential to understanding the legacy of Reagan's America, a country equally capable of fierce political divisions and remarkable bipartisan accomplishments. And now, we'd like to see you in the comments. What is your opinion on the legacy of President Ronald Reagan and the Reagan family in general? We know almost everyone over the age of 40 has complex feelings on this man and his family. We can't wait to hear from you, and thanks again for joining us for another episode of Old Money Luxury.